I mean, undoubtedly, Ray, of course, the country needs a government and the country needs a stable government. But we have to be very honest here and say that when people came out and voted in February, I don't believe it was with a view to returning more of the same, to have a government again of Fine Gael propped up by Fianna Fáil. So certainly what is in prospect is a governmental arrangement, but it's certainly not what people voted for in February.
What did they vote for in February? And if it was for Sinn Féin to be in government, what have you done in the 4 months to try and form a government? Have you attempted to start any negotiations? Have you met other parties, independents, to try and put a programme for government together?
Well, as the votes were being counted in February, Ray, at that stage I began reaching out to others in the political parties and on the benches of the independents who would agree to speak to us. I think what happened in summary at the election is that there was a huge mandate, a huge appetite for change, for a change in government, for a change in policy. And that mandate was so strong that it left Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael really with two options. Either, number one, they could allow the change to happen and they could cooperate with it and move on, or option two, they could band together, coalesce together to keep not just Sinn Féin out, but the government of change that people clearly wanted, and they've opted for the second option.
But are you saying that first option, it was up to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to put Sinn Féin in government? I mean,
no.
Again, in the 4 months that have passed, again, who have you been engaging with to try and form a government?
we've engaged as recently as up to last week with a wide range of parties, all of the parties, in fact, Ray, that would speak to us. I'm under no illusion that we have any God-given right to be in government. Nobody enjoys that right. But certainly to exclude us, to deliberately and calculatedly exclude the elected representatives of more than 500,000 voters is quite an extraordinary thing to do. And it's a reflection of the fact that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have wielded power in this state now between them for almost a century, and they simply aren't prepared to allow others in and to move with the very, very obvious and necessary change that we need across housing and health services and so on, all of the areas where people know big change is required. And so now the grassroots of Fianna Fáil have to decide, do they want to put Fine Gael back in government again? The grassroots of the Green Party need to ask themselves, is this actually a government of change? It quite clearly, by our estimation, is not. And when you read the programme for government, it's actually quite alarming in that it is a recipe for the same old same failed approach in respect of housing, very slim on details in terms of the health resources that we need. And I'm making that point, Ray, because those are areas that we spoke with other parties and we actually made very considerable progress because we share common ground with other parties who don't want a government of the same old same.
But going back to where we started, I suppose, here we are, 4 months, whatever you say the makeup of this government is. Leo Varadkar said he'd get involved in government talks as a last resort back in February, and that looks like it's coming together based on your view there. But if it doesn't happen, is he right in saying that will create a political crisis? What would Sinn Féin's view be?
No, he's not. I mean, if it doesn't happen, well, then that opens up another political process. I mean, there has always been since the election, and the maths of it are messy. You know, there's nothing definitive. But what we do know is that there is a strong, solid core of not just Sinn Féin but parties beyond us that have a very similar view in terms of changes in housing policy and health and all of the big issues and challenges that face us. So there is the core of an alternative government, a government of change that would be led by Sinn Féin and others who share our view in terms of public services and secure work and decent pay and standing up for workers and families. So that is still an option. And I think failing that, well then, you're looking at a second election, and I don't think in any democratic system you should be describing an election as a political crisis. I certainly wouldn't regard it as that. OK,
Mary Lou McDonald, President of Sinn Féin, thanks for speaking with us this evening.
Thank you.
Teacher trade unions and school management bodies met this afternoon as part of ongoing efforts to agree guidelines for the planned full reopening of schools in September. The Primary Teachers Union, the INTO, says its concerns centre on the safety of workers and how to facilitate the best possible interaction between teachers and their pupils.
Schools may have closed, but in communities like this one, the connection has been maintained. Every